Hi, gang. Welcome to Behind the Rhinestones. I am your host, Dinah Dare. And here on this series, we have conversations with your favourite burlesque and cabaret performers. We get a little bit of a peek of life behind the rhinestones. If you are interested in our future episodes, please do like and subscribe as we have so much coming for you. It's unreal. Today, I have someone on that I have chatted to online quite a bit over the years. I have seen her basically come from starting to the headliner that she is now. I am so thrilled to say that we have Aya the Storm. Welcome so much to the channel, Aya. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm genuinely surprised you found time when amongst your
Right.
like
So
I know
what
I'm
is
sure you
time?
were you were at Elite last week, just the weekend there. You were at
Yes.
Zurich the weekend beforehand where you headlined.
Yes.
You you've done other
And
gigs this year abroad, haven't you?
Finland was the weekend before that. So that was a kinky club cabaret with La La
Yeah.
L'Amour. Yes.
So yeah, I'm really glad that you're actually like at home for 5 minutes to talk. That's
Um,
nice.
Me too. I'm sure my husband and cats are very thrilled about it as well.
They're like,
Like,
she's here, get her, quick.
yeah, it's like, do you still live here?
Like massive congratulations first off on headlining and for winning, I believe, Lioness at
Thank
Elite.
you. Yes, that is correct, Lioness, which is such a cool title,
Such a cool tip. I also feel like it suits you.
right?
Yeah.
I thought that too.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was like, that's such a good title for you.
Yeah. I was like, I will have that. Thank you very much.
It's amazing. Yeah, I feel like there's so much to talk about. I'm like, huh, where do I start? How does it feel to be able to say you are now an international headline?
It's pretty wild. And it came about really in a very surprising way. Like a few people have asked me, how did you get that gig? How did this come
Hmm.
about? And actually, I have Miss Lolly May to thank for that because I did my typical thing of not, I guess, not recognizing what I'm capable of and
Mhm.
not seeing myself perhaps how other people see me. So Emma Milan, who's the producer, put up a thing on her Instagram stories where she was like, "Oh, I'm looking for acts with a story or like a storyline." And I'd seen it and kind of gone, it doesn't really apply to me," and scrolled past. And Lolly sent it to me, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't know though." I was like, "Oh, maybe, I guess maybe my Ice Queen or like my Venus." And Lolly was like, "Or your act that won Best Concept at the Great British Striptease," which is Thunderstruck. And I was like, "Oh, I don't know if it's enough of like a story. I don't know." So I sent it to her anyways, and I was like, "Here's this one. Oh, and I also have this other one that's a bit more story based." Um, and she loved it and was like, "I'd like to book you." And then yeah, it was like, "Would you like to do the festival?" And I actually, it'd be really funny if Emma's watching this, but I did not know I was headlining until we got the email requesting our tech details. I knew I was like a booked performer that I hadn't, gone through the usual like festival applications. I wasn't in the competition. Um, but yeah, I got this email being like, "So headliners," da, 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 and was like, "Excuse, excuse me." Um, Sorry for my distracting background. This is Ripley.
It's
He
absolutely so welcome. I love it
has
so
to be
much.
involved, so chaos in the background. But yeah, so it was a bit wild to see. And then yeah, looking at the list of other headliners, like people such as Julie Papillon, who I was saying to Julie while we were there, one of my we'd never performed together yet. We've not been in the same show. That was the first
Okay.
show we've done together. And
Amazing. And it's
one
one
of
hell of a show to do together.
right, and like one of my first burlesque gigs was doing front of house at Gin House for Julie and Betsy and Missy. So it was like quite a cool first full circle moment to be like, "Oh, I'm on this lineup with her." Yeah, it's It's mad. It hasn't really sunk in yet, I think.
Are you like, oh yeah, shit, I did that thing. And it's
Yeah,
like I do feel like Zurich Festival is got a very good reputation of a very high standard as well.
that very
And
that.
that's like that's not shitting on other festivals at all, but it's one of those ones that's like up there.
Yeah,
Um
I know what you mean. Like there's
so
some festivals where it is more open to newcomers or people testing things out. There's more of a varied level, and then there's some festivals where you're like, oh, everybody's of a particularly high standard, and that is one of them.
100%. So then for you to be headlining that as well
Crazy.
was unreal.
Yeah, it was. I don't think I really processed it. But I had a
Well, no
great time.
wonder, because a week later you then won an award at another
Yeah.
festival.
Yeah, which was also awesome and I again very unexpected. I was not in my best headspace that night. I don't feel like I did my best performance that night. Again, I get in my own brain all the time. I get really perfectionist. I was like, oh, I've done that better before, these mistakes happened, that mistake happened. Da, da, da. Um, I'm like a lesson in get out of your own head.
Just do it.
Just do
Because
it. Just do
clearly
it.
what you do is still amazing enough to win an amazing crown, which oh, she has to hand.
It's the most amazing crown. Let me see if I can put it on. Like, you
It's
know,
stunning.
it's huge.
It very much suits the title as well of Lioness. Like I
It
feel like
really
it,
does.
yeah.
I feel like I'm
Yep.
going to do like the burlesque Lion King.
Oh my God, yes. Although I feel like you're almost encroaching on Samson Knight's territory.
Yeah, yeah. That's a collision of worlds, isn't it?
That would be so
What a double
good.
life to have.
I
Right,
know.
that this is rattling in my ears, so I'm actually going to take it off. But
How did you get that home?
I wore it for some of the journey, but the people on the plane were very kind to me and said I did not have to wear it or put it in storage or anything. They were like, you can just... So I kind of had it on my lap like a little pet.
Just stroking the feathers the
But
whole time.
literally for the flight, honestly, taking it through security, the, you know, security agents were very...
Yeah.
I got some looks, but they didn't say anything. It's so heavy. There we
You
go.
just be like, I am glamorous.
Yeah, none of
Hmm.
them
This is how
asked
I
any
dress.
questions. They just looked.
Do you not get that? How many so obviously you've done a bunch of international gigs. Have you ever had your bag pulled and looked at and like questioned, or do they just kind of open it and go, "Oh,
Yeah, I've had like the quick search. The one thing that I got not questioned about, but that I forgot would be potentially an issue is I use these massive hairpins that hold up all my hair in a bun, and then you pull it out and it
yeah.
falls. But they're like, I guess like a big fork about this kind of length, big
Hmm.
metal fork, which I had in my bag, and I think it was on the way to New Orleans that they like pulled it out and we're just like, what is this? And I had to explain what it was. So of all the things, yeah, like sparkly costumes and things, I've been very lucky, which would not to have any proper like scrutiny or having my stuff rifled through too much. It's all very like, here you go.
Absolutely don't care. The one
Yeah.
that's got me twice now, um, is Pleasantville because I have a dildo. Yep. Coming back from, I think it was Oklahoma last year, the security guy opened it and he went scarlet 'cause it was a young guy.
Bless.
Um, and I think it was going out to uh, one of the ones in Italy that I did, Ferrari, years like a
Mm.
good couple of years ago. I got it. It was in Glasgow, and again, the guy just, I think it was a woman. She just kind of opened it and closed it again. But I was like, it's always that fucking act every
Yeah.
time.
Well,
Like,
that's the nice
no.
thing about traveling with Thunderstruck is like apart from I guess like the lingerie, it's a suit.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a very, it's a very loud suit, but it's kind of, it doesn't really invite too many questions. So it's good that that act gets booked quite a lot abroad because it's the easiest one to travel with.
It's yeah, I must say Pleasantville is it's like a top and a skirt. Again, the most kind of unusual part is the underwear and the dildo, but the dildo they all just kind of look at and then just like
Moving on very quickly.
moving on very quick there. I feel like we've started at the end with you because, as I said, you're now a headliner. But you started burlesque during COVID, is that right?
That is right. So I did my sort of solo performance course with Evelyn Carnett in very early 2020. We were supposed to graduate on the 28th of March,
So
2020,
like
which
a week after we went out.
literally we were in our last couple of weeks of just like doing our dress rehearsals, getting ready for the show, and then the world shut down. So I had my official debut in September of 2020. During that weird time where like people were allowed to clap but not cheer, and you had to be sat at your tables, and everyone had to wear masks when they weren't on stage. It was odd.
Hmm.
Great for your burlesque debut that nobody's allowed to make that much noise.
And you're just taking your clothes off to silence.
Literally, our like debut videos, they're all the audience noise is just. I mean, I was towards the end of the show, so people had like had some drinks by then, so there were little sort of stifled people being like, oh, forgetting themselves.
But it must have, that's like the politest audience ever to perform to. They're just like, yes, that is wonderful. Take your clothes off.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's very odd. I mean, it was at the RVT, so like they wanted to go crazy, but they were very, oh, we can't. What a
And
time.
what was your first act?
So I debuted with Venus. Thunderstruck has technically existed for longer. So I made Thunderstruck for a burlesque themed dance show in 2018, possibly, maybe 2019. It was pre actually getting into properly burlesque. I didn't have silk fans. I did floor work. There was stocking peels. Yeah, I kind of made it as like for a one-off themed show, and then it was never meant to be a thing. And then it was actually during that lockdown, I had all this time to work on my debut act and was like, oh, actually, whenever we come out of this, I knew that I wanted to perform, and I knew that I wanted to like be as good as I could be, and I wanted to hit the ground running. I thought this is an opportunity because I had such a busy day job that always prevented me from being able to do burlesque and to do, anything that requires any time commitment. Um, so I was like, oh, actually, I liked this act that I made for this thing. I didn't like the execution, but I liked the idea of it. So I worked with Wild Vixen online to kind of make the bones of what it is today, and it hasn't fundamentally changed since then. So yeah, Venus was my first act that I made as a burlesque performer, but Thunderstruck has actually been kind of bubbling around for longer, and it's the act that prompted me choosing my name, which makes sense, right?
Yeah. I actually thought Thunderstruck was your first one, and then when you started seeing Venus, I was like, oh yeah, of course. Like I know you've because you've recently upgraded Venus.
Yes,
So I know you've talked about that. But yeah, Thunderstruck is your signature act at this
it
point,
very
really.
is. It very is.
It's a great act though, it's a great concept, so I can totally
Thank you.
understand. So yeah, that's where your name came from, was that act then, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very much.
That makes sense. So you said there that you did a like a themed dance show. Um And then you ended up doing burlesque. Did you always want to do burlesque and it was the time commitment, or was it something that you just kind of came across? Like, how did that happen?
So I've danced since I was little, and the dance shows that I was doing was actually my troupe, the Riskettes, that I used to have. We're not officially retired, but we've been a bit inactive because life. But before me actually getting into proper burlesque, we are sort of a cabaret style dance troupe.
Uh,
Because I first encountered burlesque in Glasgow, because I went to uni there, and it was back in the day Club Noir. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember going to Club Noir. I think it was their yeah, it would have been their Christmas show. There was a beautiful rhinestoned snow globe showgirl, and then there was also like a Tin Man blow up doll act in the
That show
same
was
show.
wild.
That show was mental, and I was like, this is everything. And then had done a couple of cabaret events with the dance troupe in
Hmm.
Glasgow. So we did Tea in the Park and we did the Gatsby Club, also RIP
Oh
Gatsby Club.
yeah. Hmm.
And then yeah, moved down to London, saw 100 Watt Club, saw House of Burlesque, and was like kind of got more interested in it. And that's why I was doing my dance troupe because I was like kind of felt that that was my way of being on the fringes of that. Because in my head it was always, oh well, I'm not a professional dancer, therefore I cannot be a burlesque performer. So I think I always wanted to do it, and it wasn't until actually speaking to people who were doing classes or who had recently graduated and seeing more shows and realizing actually not everybody's a professional dancer and it's not a prerequisite at all, and especially starting to do those classes and I started to watch more burlesque on YouTube and just seeing the wealth of different styles and skills, even at the highest levels. There are people who it's like, oh, what they do isn't dance based necessarily. So I think that was kind of the turning point for me where I was a bit like, oh, actually, like I can do this. And like for the kind of style that I do, dance skills are very useful. But the fact that I'm haven't gone to dance college, it's not my full-time job, is not a barrier.
I think that's such an important thing because there is an element of some of the biggest stars in burlesque have come from a dance background, but
Yeah,
not all of
not
them.
all of them. Not at all.
Um, so yeah, it totally makes sense. I do think the internet, what you're saying there, has made it so much more accessible for all of
Mm,
us as well, which is nice because I was the same. I remember watching hours and hours of YouTube.
hmm
Um,
I
I
still
still,
do.
yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, I still do like doing it as
Yeah.
well. Like whenever there's the competitions in other countries and then they put the videos up online, I'm like,
hmm
I'll just watch you. But that's kind of where some inspiration comes from. I suppose that's my next question. Where do you think you tend to pull your inspiration from?
Frankie Fictitious was a massive inspiration,
Mm.
and I feel like I discovered her Welcome to the Jungle act at some point before I graduated, before I debuted, and was like, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I want to do. That's the
Yeah.
kind of performer I want to be. So yeah, she's big inspiration. Ginger Valentine, massive inspiration. Um, yeah, oh, so many people. Obviously, Evelyn Carnett, huge inspiration. Lulu Brow.
Yeah.
I feel like I like to take a big, I like everything, like I always say if I was to produce my like ideal lineup, it would involve the most glamorous, beautiful, statuesque showgirls, and it would also have just like the most weird, unhinged shit. And that's where I pull my inspiration from. Do you know what I mean? I'll watch anything. I'm not like, oh, this style is my jam more than anything else. It's just if it's great, it's great.
That totally makes sense. But how would you describe your own style then?
So I would probably call it, I don't like to do the whole definition between neo and classic because I would say it's kind of neoclassic, which I feel like is what a lot of people do. Um, it takes a lot of the vintage showgirl glamorous aesthetic, but blends it with a bit of a grimy rock and roll vibe. Yeah, it's kind of if Dita Von Teese had crash landed through like the 1980s Sunset Strip and got thrown out the other side, you might find me.
Yeah, I think in my head I'm like she's like an 80s showgirl.
Yeah,
That's the vibe, which
very that.
I love so much.
Thank you.
It's such a vibe.
It's a great vibe. The 80s was, yeah.
She's like all of that. You said that you were part of the Risquets dancing troupe, and
Yes.
it seems like you've carried on that troupe life into burlesque because you also have the coven.
Yeah. So, yeah, the Riskettes was a dance troupe that I set up with some friends in Surrey when I lived there. And then once I actually started doing burlesque classes, that's where I met the coven. So the coven kind of came about really like organically. Basically, when we were doing our solo courses and we all got locked down.
Mhm.
There was a few of us that sort of bonded, and we were also kind of reaching out to people in our class of being like, who's just doing this for like the fun of the showcase? Because some people do a burlesque course for that reason, just to do it for, once in a lifetime experience, tick, done it, carry on. And then there's others who are like seeing it as a stepping stone to going into a performing career. And so there was a few of us, Pandora, Faye, Lolly, a whole bunch of us that were like, actually, we do want to perform. So we basically, the Coven started as a bit of a support group, um, where
We
we
all
were
need that
just,
in burlesque, let's be
yeah,
honest.
exactly. We were like workshopping our act. We would like watch the online shows, we would, have like Zoom parties. God, what a time. And we just became a very close-knit group of friends. And then we were like, it was never intended to be a troupe to begin with. It was more like a collective, a support network, a bit of an artists, yeah, collective, um, where it was to support each other as soloists, to put on shows together. But then we obviously were like, also, we can do troupe acts. And the school that we went to, the kind of beginners classes, you do a troupe act and then you go on to do the solo course. So the Coven was actually the name of one of those classes, which had Faye and Lolly and Moira and some others. And then me and Pandora were in another one, which our our troupe act was the Sirens of Athena, which has now become a Coven act. So yeah, it was kind of like our little baby burlesque classes merged into one group. Um, and then yeah, we just it's just grown from strength to strength from there. We're pretty accomplished soloists in our own rights. We've got quite a few prize winners and headliners. And then we have some great troupe acts as well, which is super fun. And yeah, like all through university, I taught group dances. I mostly did like contemporary and jazz, but I love putting together troupe stuff. I love doing formations and things. So it's been really fun to be able to carry that through.
Obviously, you are a group and you are coming up with group acts. And as you said, you're all accomplished soloists as well. How do you manage the creative differences? Like, is there someone who steers the helm towards this is what we're going to be doing, or is it you all brainstorm and decide? Like, how does that work?
So it's come about in a couple of different ways. Usually, like if we're picking a theme for a show or anything like that, that's very collaborative. We kind of have a chat about things. We all make casting decisions as a group.
Okay.
Um, So if anyone's been cast in a Coven show, although you might have had communication with someone, the whole group has been involved in making those decisions. In terms of our troop numbers, I'm the driving force behind most of them. But it's because I have the experience in teaching groups and making formations and things. So
Yeah, makes
um,
sense.
yeah, so a couple of them likes of the ones that came out of our school, our burlesque school classes, the concept was already there, and then it was more just looking at it and seeing how we could elevate it to like more our experience level now, whether it's the aesthetic or the choreography, that sort of thing. Um, there was one act that we brought out last Halloween, which was a cult themed act, which was actually Gina Colada's idea. Um, if you know Gina, she does spooky and weird and dark very, very well. Gina doesn't actually live in London at the moment, and because I had more experience with doing troupe stuff and I'm in London, we kind of did that as a collaborative. So she and I were talking through brainstorming like what the concept was, what was her visual idea for it, what the music was, and then I was kind of taking that and translating it into what's going to work on a stage with the group that we have and how do we put this together and actually teach it and make it a thing. So that was an interesting process for me because I've never sort of wasn't a commission, but I've never kind of done that before, almost translated someone's creative idea into a finished product that wasn't my own vision to begin with, um, which was a challenge, but I think we pulled it off. It was a pretty cool act. It was well received. Um, and then likes of the new 80s number, that is 1,000% my brainchild. I was like, I know the
I am I
song.
not surprised.
Literally, I was like, this is my baby. That was my treat to myself after having done the cult act, where I made costumes for it and did all the choreography with Gina's direction. I was like, right, I need a break, I need a treat, I need something, a palette cleanser, because that was quite an intense concept. It was quite specific and story based. It was a thinker. And I was like, I'm gonna choreograph and teach and costume an even more ambitious act as a treat to myself because I don't know how to stop.
That's definitely not coming across. No, not from all of the things we've talked about so far, and it's
Not at
not like
all.
I have more things to talk to you about. So yeah,
She doesn't sit down.
I love that though, because that's how you've skyrocketed as well. But what you were saying there about taking someone else's act idea and making it come to life, did you find doing that has put you in a position like I know you now do one-to-ones? Was that almost like prep for now helping people with one-to-ones a little bit?
It definitely helped. I think at the time I wasn't thinking that way, but yeah, actually looking at the timeline, it was after doing that that I kind of was like, maybe I could, maybe I could help people with their acts. And it was something we'd always done in the coven. Like I said, the whole group came out of helping workshop each other's acts, and
Mhm.
a few of us would go into the studio and rehearse together, where we'd watch each other and ask and give feedback, and help each other to develop these acts. So it was something we'd always been doing, but I felt a barrier to feeling like I was qualified to charge money for it and offer it as a service to other performers who weren't just my mates, that
Yeah.
I knew would receive it kindly. But yeah, that definitely helped and gave me some confidence to be like, no, I do have a bit of an eye for things, and I think I can use that as a skill. So yeah, it definitely opened that door. And I've been loving helping performers with their acts. I love analyzing things. And it's nice to look at someone else's work and not just my own.
Yeah, not pick yourself to death.
Yeah, because I do that enough.
Obviously paying off with how well you're doing though.
Thank you.
Um, um, as well as obviously you produce as a group and you're now, you come up with these concepts and I know you make costumes because you've been learning online.
Hmm.
You also co-produce. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. I co-produced Clandestine Cabaret with ZZ Stardust, which also was a lockdown baby.
Lockdown was busy, babe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Like I say, my day job was weirdly quiet,
Mm.
compared to most of my industry. And it was the first time that I had a lot of time to do the things that I wanted to do. And I knew that it wouldn't last forever. So I really went ham during lockdown. I basically used it as like a training year, couple of years, where I did as many online classes as I could. I worked on my acts, I worked on my costumes, I did online shows to get my name out there. I watched as much as I possibly could. I just was like, I'm just going to be a little sponge and take on as much
Honest.
as I pot. Literally, I was like, I want to be ready to like bolt as soon as we are able to get back out again. I didn't want to just, oh, we can't do anything, so I'm just gonna wait. And that's no shade to anyone that did, because for some people it was just like, just living through this is all I can manage, and I just need some time to rest, and that's absolutely valid as well. But for me, I was like, I've never had this much time that's not been taken up by my day job. And I've never had this much energy that's not been taken up by my day job. And I'm gonna just take the opportunity to, yeah, use it towards something that I really enjoy. And yeah, I'm very grateful to have had that time, to be honest, because I don't think I would be where I am now if I hadn't had that sort of, what's the word? Not melting pot. You know what I mean? Marinating that, like, yeah, that sort of prep time. If I'd gone straight out and started doing shows as well as working, I think my development would have been much, much slower. Yeah,
Because you definitely took advantage of that time. And as you
yeah.
said, you came out and yeah, you were like off. 'Cause I can't remember when I started following you in the coven, but it must have been pretty early. I remember you doing
I feel
online
like,
shows and stuff.
yeah,
I can't remember how I found you, but I started following you all. And it's been great seeing all of you like develop and grow. But I think all of you have grown much faster than what
mm,
I tend to see. And partly, I don't know if that is user London, and there is an element of you do have a hell of a lot more shows than we have.
mm,
But also, I don't know if it's just, as you said, the kind of support group you have. It sounds like you all push each other in a positive way. You all took that opportunity to learn so much, and you can see the benefit of that because
mm.
the Coven has produced some of the best performers that we've had in a while.
Thank you. I
Um,
think so too.
yeah,
I love my friends. I think
obviously.
they're amazing.
They're so good. And you're all
But yeah,
lovely people as well, which is it's nice when I'm
thanks.
also like, oh, cows.
How
Ugh,
dare.
how dare they?
Yeah, I feel like we've been following each other for like quite an early stage because I feel like we've known each
Yeah.
other for a long, long time and seeing you develop as well has been so cool and seeing the things that you've been doing. But yeah, I don't even think it's just London. I think London is not the advantage that people think it is in terms of the number of shows because yes, there's a lot of shows, but there's also a lot of competition. There is
Mm,
an
true.
oversaturation of burlesque performers. So, and I think especially when you're at the stages that we are now, where you're kind of in the middle, there's very little, especially like 2024 was awful. So many venues and shows shut down. So lots of shows that we would have had are now gone because people just can't afford to produce them. So unless you are very, very new and you're doing your student showcases, your scratch nights, um, are able to perform wherever, whenever, just because it's a stage. There are opportunities for you if you're at the top, top, top level where you are very sought after. Those people are still getting booked, regularly. In the middle, it is a lot harder. And I would say the majority of my gigs in recent memory have not been in London. They've either been abroad or just elsewhere in the UK. But I'd say London is definitely it's good for networking, it's good for seeing shows, which I think is very important for development. And just the amount of teachers and classes we've got here as well, it's great for that. Even if it's not so much stage opportunity. Um, but yeah, like I say, I don't think that's necessarily the be all and end all of development. Like I said, the first year or so that we were performing, there was no shows at all, not a one. But we all
The other
developed
stuff
so
that
much.
you took the
Hmm.
time at home to learn.
Exactly, watching shows, taking classes, looking at our own work, looking at costumes, just learning as much as possible. And I
Hmm.
think that's something that gets a little bit of lip service in some circles. And yeah, that would be my biggest advice to new performers is don't just focus on stage time because and don't feel discouraged if you're struggling to get gigs, like it'll come anytime you're not performing, if you've got free time, use that time to learn and develop because there's so many other things that go into developing your practice. And one of them is literally just watching. Watch the best, watch the people that are just a little stage above you, watch the people all the levels in between, and yeah, just like absorb as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's one of the things I love about festivals. We're going
Mm,
off on a tangent. We'll come back to producing. One of the things I love
that was my
about
fault. That was entirely my fault.
that's fine. We'll come back. One of the things I love about festivals is getting to see all the different performers.
Yeah.
And I've said this on previous episodes of this, but one of the things I love is watching people and working out what did I like, what did I not like. And it's not
Hmm.
about stealing what they do, it's about understanding what about that did I like and how could I
Yeah.
incorporate that into my own stuff. And
Hmm.
it's the same when you're watching like all the hours of YouTube that we love to watch as well. Like it's about looking at it and going, oh, I like that move, that was interesting, or I liked how they took off that glove. Like,
Mm.
is there something there that I could do? Or yeah, it's about taking it in and thinking about how could you make it your style.
Yeah, it helps you develop a taste and a filter, doesn't it? And I think that also helps then with receiving feedback.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll receive feedback and I've actually been told a couple of times recently where I've been in a competition setting and I've received feedback and I've been like, okay, cool, take that on board. And then other people who have either been in the show or at the show are like, are you okay? That was really harsh feedback. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. But that's because I've developed that, I feel like I've developed that filter and that yeah, that knowing what's knowing what's for me and what's not as well. Because some feedback is a taste level and some feedback is a personal preference. So sometimes I'll get feedback and I'll think, okay, that's fine, that's your opinion, but it actually doesn't resonate with what I'm doing. And then there's other times where I'll get feedback and it's like, yes, that's a good development point, whether it's a technical thing or a visual thing or whatever it is. I think watching and knowing what your taste level is, knowing what you like, what you don't like, and recognizing the things you need to work on. Because then when I get feedback about those things, I'm like, well, I know I need to work on that, so I'm not going to get upset about it. And then when you get that feedback where they comment on that very thing that you've been working on as a positive, it's like,
If they comment on the thing you know you need to work on, but you're like, don't know how to make that better though, can you help?
hmm,
Like, because I've definitely had those conversations where someone will say something and I'm like, I that bit of my act doesn't feel right when I'm performing it, but I don't know what to do to make it feel right. And then it's a conversation with the person that's giving
yeah,
me that feedback to work out what can I do to make it feel right
yeah. And
as
that's where
well.
one-to-ones are so useful as well, like one-to-ones with other
Hmm.
performers. And I do that a lot, whether it's an act that I'm just debuting or whether it's an act where I'm like, oh, it's been out for a while. There's something about it, especially if I hit that point where you're like, there's something about it that either I don't know what it is to make it better, or I know what's wrong with it, but I don't know how to change it.
Yep.
Getting a fresh pair of eyes and somebody who I think will get the act and will get the style of it. Um, I often work with Evelyn, but I do work with a lot of other performers as well to just get them to look at it, and that can really unlock things because sometimes you're too in it to like see the way out.
Yep.
And sometimes just someone else, if you're saying, oh, look, I've had this feedback or I don't like this bit or there's something that I want to work on, but I don't know how to do it. Often just getting that other person to come in, they'll be like, well, what about this? And you're like, that's it. Ah.
Has feedback been a massive part of your development then?
Definitely huge, huge part of my development. And I seek it out, and sometimes doing competitions, I've had people be like, why are you still doing competitions? Because obviously sometimes they're not very well paid, if at all. It is stressful. It's more stressful than doing just like a regular show. You are opening yourself up to scrutiny.
Hmm.
But I'm like, it's free feedback.
Yeah.
It's making a person or a panel of people watch my act and be like, tell me how you would make it better.
Hmm.
And I think looking at it from that respect, which is hard with art, and especially if you have a very personal act, it can be hard. But yeah, I think feedback has been such a instrumental thing, and also just like self-review. And this was a thing I learned from Ginger Valentine. She, in her online classes and in all of her, if you watch her little tips that she puts up on her Instagram, video everything and watch it back. Actually watch it back, because that's when you pick up on little nuances, and both positive and negative. There'll be things that I'll look at where I'm like, I have awkward arm syndrome. Where if my arm is not choreographed, it just does a weird thing. So it's often my left arm, if it's not been thought about, she does some weird shit. And it's not until I watch a video back and I'm like, that bit, the arm goes and I need to pull that in. And I'm not aware of it in the moment because I'm thinking about my leading arm. It's usually in glove peels. And but then also positive things as well. You know, there might be a show where I just happened to hit something really well on a bit of the music that I hadn't normally done, or something, you know, sometimes something goes wrong and you cover for it, but then actually the cover is better than what the correct move was. And it's only by watching yourself back with a critical eye that you can pick up on these things. Um, and yeah, I feel like since I started doing that, that's where things have developed much quicker. Um, yeah, watch your videos. It's horrible, but do it.
Can't do it. So if I go to the studio and I'm rehearsing, I'm not too bad in the studio. If I'm
Mm,
rehearsing, I can usually watch it back there and then and pick up on things. But see, if I've performed, it's like the next evening, perhaps even the evening after that, before I
yeah.
watch it. Because I just need distance, because I will immediately be super critical.
Hmm.
So I'm like, I just need a little bit of distance to watch it,
Yeah.
especially if I feel like it went badly in the moment.
Oh,
I'm like,
completely.
I need 24 to 48 hours before I look at that.
Just
Yeah.
yeah, and that's I do the same thing. Like, I mean, often unless it's been recorded on my phone, you know, if I'm waiting for like an official video, you don't
Yeah.
get it back straight away anyways, which actually is good. It's like just don't. I will admit every clandestine show, I come home and I watch them on the phone because it's my husband's old phone that we film on, so I have them in my possession. And because you're running around like a headless chicken producing, I don't always get to watch everybody. So I'm immediately like, I'm gonna just replay the show to myself, but I also watch my act back to be like, what happened? Which sometimes I shouldn't, but
So you're right, though. Like, I think that self-reflection tool is massively important. Talking about hands, so there's a turn that I do, and when I was watching my rehearsal video, I was like, "What the fuck is that arm doing?" Because I'm like holding the material with this arm, and this arm's just like,
right? What's the chicken wing? Why is
I was
that
like,
the
what is that doing? Why is it just floating behind me like this?
yeah?
Like,
Why is this our default? Like, what? Why are you
millennial women were just like,
chicken wings?
um, we'll switch back to producing. You produce
Yes,
clandestine. You just talked about that there.
yes, yes. Dropped it in there.
So that is something that you have co-produced since lockdown.
Yeah,
You do it a couple of times a year, two, three times a year,
4 times a year at the
four
moment.
times a year.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Producing is a hard game,
Hmm.
especially these days. I've seen you posting it. You do like pay it forward and stuff as well, which is really nice. I've seen a lot more of that.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to go into producing?
So I already had some experience producing in terms of more from the dance background. Like I say, during uni, I was part of the Glasgow Student Dance Society, GSDC, which was a mass. I think there was 30 of us when I started, and when I graduated and left, there was about 120 in that society. Backstage at the Mitchell Theatre.
Yeah,
Yeah, so through the dance society, we were putting on big shows as like part of a committee. So I felt like I'd had some experience putting shows together, curating lineups, you know, working out running orders and things, promoting and selling tickets. So although cabaret is a completely different world, I felt like I had some applicable skills that would come in, and I love doing all that kind of stuff. I love putting together a show. And it was actually Zizi did the first clandestine online, and I was one of the performers in it. Um, and it was during the days of obviously the online shows where there was a lot of performing in your living room with sound coming in and out, dodgy internet connections, you know, fuzzy webcams, lots of shows where there was just like the tech was difficult because we were working with things that aren't designed for that. So she was like, I want it to be pre-recorded so that you can make it more like a mood film. You know, you can zoom in, you can have camera angles, you can, you know, make sure that it's good quality. So yeah, I did that was when I had my Venus act. So I did an online edition of Venus, which I filmed in my living room and edited on my phone. Um, and yeah, had seen her do a couple more of the online clandestines, and we'd become friends through that time. And I knew she'd been performing cabaret for a little while already. So we were having one of these like typically very British conversations where she was like, "Oh yeah, I wish I could do more with the show, but like it's really hard because I'm on my own. I don't know if I have time." And I was like, "Well, I'm not like muscling in, but if you wanted some help, I would totally be up for like helping, but like no pressure." And she's like, "Well, I'm not asking you, don't feel obligated, but if you want to help." And then we're like, should we just do this? Yeah.
That's so terribly British. Like, well,
Honestly,
I could
I don't
use
want to
help.
put you
I'm
out.
happy
Yeah,
help. I don't want to put you out, but like, but I don't want to step on your toes. But
very
I don't
that.
want. Amazing. Um, from what I've not been able to make it to one of your shows, which I'm gutted about, but from what I see online, you guys have really made an effort to, again, talking about, we said at the start, Zurich is a very high level, got a really high level reputation.
Mm,
Clandestine, from my perspective, has that. It's a show that is always got a fantastic lineup. The quality seems to be really high. You get some fantastic headliners, and
our headliner game is pretty strong.
it's pretty fucking
I'm not
strong.
gonna lie.
Like, did you set out with the goal of this is what we want to do? Like, we want to do it at this level.
Yeah, so I think once we kind of decided we were going to produce together, we kind of had a bit of a chat together about like how is this going to work going forward? What's both of our, because obviously it was Zizi's show to begin with. So I didn't want to come in and just be like, well, this is what I'm going to do. But I was also like, I like the vision of the show, so I want to be involved in this, but how can we take it to like the next step? And it was things like, we said, look, it's going to be diverse, it's going to be inclusive, it's going to feature all different styles, it will have a specific point of view, and also we did want it to be at a certain quality level. But we did also want to make sure that we had a space for newcomers. That was something that was very important to us, and that's why we have that spread of lineup, is that we want, great headliners. We want great established performers, but we also want it to be a space for up and coming performers. And one of the first things that we actually changed to, I guess, signify the value of the show is it went from donations only to a ticket price. Um, and we went from maybe like 30 to 40 people watching the show to like, I think the first one we did together, we had about 100 people. It literally skyrocketed. I think we did two more that were online only. There was the Valentine's one, and then there was that summer show that we did where we had Frankie Fictitious, Lily Snatch Dragon, and Cleopatra in the same show.
If you
Just casual.
couple.
Yeah, it was kind of wild how that came about. I think we had sent messages and were waiting for responses and hadn't had them. So we were like, look, let's just go to. We'd asked Frankie, being like, she's not going to say yes, but we'll put that out there. And then that's just a separate thing of its own. And then, yeah, we were waiting to hear back from Lily and Cleo. And then we were like, we might need to look at, looking elsewhere for a headliner because we haven't heard back from them. And then we got the email from Frankie and lost our damn minds. And then within hours of that, both Lily and Cleopatra got back to us to be like, yeah, I'm in. And we were like, great, we've gone from no headliner to three.
Speak with the headliners you get to work with, or that you went out your way to work with. You have the opportunity to go back to what we were saying earlier, continue to see these amazing performers, but also on a personal level, you get to network with some pretty fucking.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And that's one of the things that we hope people see the value of, the likes of our newbie slot.
Yep.
I don't like to say newbie, like our newcomer slot, our up and coming performer slot, is that you get to be on a lineup with these kind of people very early in your career.
Mhm.
And I feel like that for me has been really instrumental. Sometimes it's been who I've met backstage that I've then, made a connection with, or just found them so inspiring that it's helped me reach the next step. So that's something
Yeah.
that we really value and we're really proud of. And we get quite a lot of big headliners that, we have little starstruck moments when we get an email in our inbox from someone being like, "Hey, I'm traveling, I'm going to be in town. I've heard of your show and I'd love to come." And we're like, "What?" It's amazing. And it's just great to know that we are gaining that sort of reputation because that's all we want, right? We just want people to be like, "I had a good time at that show. I felt looked after. It was, I felt safe. I felt welcomed. I was able to showcase my art. I felt comfortable." And to like, yeah, just to have a good experience, whether it's the audience or the performers, we just want everybody to have a good time.
What people want to book into.
Yeah.
Have you got any exciting headliners coming up that you can let us know?
We might have. It will have gone out on the socials by the time this goes up. But I am very excited that we have Betty Bombshell headlining our May 18th show.
I was like, it's going to be Betty or Lucy because I know they're both over.
Right.
So, fucking Betty Bombshell.
Yeah. And I'm going to be doing a one-to-one with her on one of my acts, which I'm very, very excited with.
What? She's amazing. I
She's
got to see
amazing.
her. Did you see Swamp Blesque that she was in
I
when it was
didn't see it
here?
when she was in it, but when it was here, we went
Yeah.
to see it, and
So
oh my
she was
God.
in it up in Edinburgh, and I went to see it, and she was Lord Farquhar, and
Yeah,
it's the first time I'd seen her perform, and I was like,
amazing.
she's so good.
She's so good.
She's
And she's lovely.
mm,
I first saw her at Hebden Bridge,
yep.
when she was headlining last year. Me and Faye went, and yeah, she headlined the gala show. And then she was headlining in Stockholm. So when I went to Stockholm, I got to meet her. I was on quite late in the show as well. So like she was backstage when I was getting ready to go on. I just remember doing Thunderstruck and Betty and Lily Snatch Dragon screaming at me from the wings.
That's a core memory.
It's literally, I'm like, I'm keeping that forever.
That's going to be
I'm so excited.
amazing.
I'm so excited.
Oh, it's going to be so good.
It's gonna be so good.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. It just seems like it's going so well. We've both had the opportunity to do a lot of festivals. And last year we both had the opportunity to do American festivals. So you were
Yeah.
at Teaser in Hollywood,
Hmm.
which is amazing. I was following you as always. Like, what's she doing? Where's she going? What's up? Um, how was getting to do those festivals in the States?
Oh my God, dream and also game changer. Like I feel like the way I've developed, I feel like my progress has taken a bit of a since particularly Hollywood.
Hmm.
So massive shout out to Misspent Youth and Veronica Voss because they do a fantastic job of producing that festival. And I remember doing a little interview just like this with Miss Spent before the festival, and I was like, I cannot explain to you how much this opportunity means to me. And again, it's that obsession with the 80s and the fucking Sunset Strip. Like it feels like my spiritual home. And anytime I've been to LA and been around, Hollywood and West Hollywood and just the sunshine and just the people. They're mental, but they're good fun, like it's just a lot of people are like, oh yeah, LA is really fake. And I'm sure, yes, there are parts of it that are, but to me, it's a very, very special place. So getting to go and perform there, and especially in the venue that we had, which has now closed, but the Bourbon Rooms, I opened the door and you had to go up a flight of stairs to get into the main venue, and they had the David Bowie lightning bolt on the stairs, and I was like, oh, this is a bit special. And it was all like, all the old rock stars and things were on the walls. It was very much a homage to that. And I was like, this is something very, very special. Um, and yeah, that it meant absolutely everything to me. And I did not expect to get into those festivals. Those two and Stockholm actually were three that were kind of like on my, I guess, my bucket list. And I thought I'll start applying to them. um, Hollywood was a more serious application because I was in the kind of the newcomer, the Hollywood Starlet category, which is like up to 3 years, and it was the last opportunity I'd have to apply for that. that category before it aged out. So I was like, I'm gonna go for that one. Fingers crossed, but we'll just see. Teaser, I just threw it in on the last day before it shut. I was like, why not? Not gonna get in, but we'll see. And same with Stockholm. I was like, I'll just start putting my name out there. And then when I got all of them, I was just blown away. And it's all with Thunderstruck that I never used to put into competitions or festivals because I thought it was too simple, which now I know is like not, that's not what it's about at all.
No,
Yeah.
I obviously I've said I had the opportunity to do America last year as well, and I loved that both of us were doing it last year.
Yeah.
It was so nice. But I think when I say this, you'll understand what I mean. The standard in America is unreal,
hmm
and it makes
hmm
you up your game.
It really does. It really does. And also, a lot of these performers, like Teaser, they had a Frankie, Medianoche, Jeez Louise. Like there were so many people that I had watched online and followed and looked up to then see them in the flesh and actually get to experience them live.
Hmm.
Um, Mind blowing. And like you say, it makes you up your game because you just see all these incredible performers. And I think being seen and recognized by these kinds of performers as well really made me uh feel seen, feel recognized, and just it was so encouraging. Pinot Noir was at both festivals. He was actually judging at Hollywood, I think, and like he ran over to me at Teaser and gave me a hug and was like, "Oh my God, I love that. That was awesome." And then when I went in to pick up my pass at Hollywood, he was just coming out and was like, "Oh, I can't wait to see your act again." Like that, I was like, someone of that caliber that I look up to so much and I'm so like starstruck by, to have someone like that be like, "I see your art and I recognize it," just meant so much. And it gave me a level of confidence that I definitely didn't have before. I think I was feeling a bit invisible in the UK scene again because of, gigs being difficult, especially in London, feeling like, oh, I wasn't getting booked that much, I wasn't doing that much. To go and have those experiences and having people like that recognize me and my art really gave me a kick up the backside to be like, no, you can do this and you just need to like know who you are.
I totally feel that because last year and even this year so far, not a huge number of bookings at home.
Yeah.
A lot of international shows though,
Yeah.
and I think that is a massive part of it. And I know you posted
Definitely.
something the other day where it was like, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was essentially like you need to recognize your own worth because, you know, you are being recognized by other people kind of thing. Like
Yeah. I put that up as a
essentially,
reminder to myself.
and I think something that's come through the whole time we've been talking is you, and forgive me if I'm wrong, kind of sound like you struggle a lot with imposter syndrome.
Massively, massively. And do you know what though? Burlesque has actually been a huge help to that. But yeah, those trips to America, I feel like were one of the biggest. Like I remember entering a competition afterwards that previously I had put very high on a pedestal. I had yeah, put a lot of my own worth into how I did in competitions.
Mhm.
And I remember going into it and being like, I don't actually need this because I've just done Hollywood, and that was like my holy grail show, like to perform on Hollywood Boulevard. What?
Yeah.
Um, Doing my Thunderstruck point at Ginger Valentine, I'm like, there is no more. There's no more to be done. It's fine. Like you've done it. You're fine. You don't need this. And I actually smashed it and won. I don't think I would have done that without having done those shows.
Yeah.
Because yeah, imposter syndrome is hard. And I've spoken to some performers, both of my own level, newer performers, and actually some massive headliners that I look up to, and to hear them talk about it as well is actually really encouraging. It's like I think it can be very isolating, and it just lies to you, right?
I think as well, like you're talking about competitions, I think the biggest thing that I've realized about competitions, I suppose. And it kind of goes back to what you were talking about, feedback,
Mm.
at the start of our chat. Um, it's so subjective.
So subjective.
It is that particular person's opinion, and let's be honest, their moods. Um,
Who else
have
is
they
there on
eaten
the night?
enough?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have they drank enough water that day?
Yeah.
Do they have a headache by the time you come on stage? Like
Yeah. Where
all
in
of
the
this,
lineup are you even, you know?
exactly. That all feeds into so much. It feeds into if you get into a festival, because
Hmm.
again, adjudicators have to look at it and decide. If you're in a competition, it depends on it then impacts like how you're placed, because again, it's what they're thinking. And I think
Hmm.
when you think of all these things, it brings it back to being not winning or being declined for festivals isn't a reflection on your self-worth.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really hard lesson that everyone in this industry has to learn at some point.
For sure. It's one of the hardest things to learn. But like I say, I think holding on to your personal wins, whether they are actual prizes or not, is so yeah, things like doing my Thunderstruck point at Ginger Valentine, having Betty Bombshell screaming at me from the wings in Stockholm, just conversations I've had with people or shows that I've had where, the audience have been really warm, things like that, holding on to those and using them as almost your ammunition and not your ammunition, your armor for things like competitions where it's like, it does not matter whether I place or not because I have all these things that meant so much to me and that doesn't take those away. They're still there.
I think even getting to the stage where you've been picked to compete in that competition
Yeah,
is an achievement, because how many people applied?
exactly. Exactly.
And you're one of the ones that got there. And I think that's important as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things that, again, Miss Spence said to us after we'd done our tech and, we were getting ready to kind of open doors and things at Hollywood. She had everybody on stage and she's just like, especially the way they do their applications where it's a points based. So you get
Mhm.
scored on the same categories that the judges will use, and she's like, you people standing here scored the highest out of everybody that applied. So you've already won just by being here, which is amazing, because yeah, you can get into your head about competitions and things. And especially, the category we had, there was only four of us. So it's like, we're the top four of everyone that applied to this category. That's amazing. And nobody needs to feel bad about not placing because we've all like smashed it by getting here. And that's so important to remember, I think. It's just, yeah, especially with competitions, the very fact that you're there is a big deal.
All of these mindsets definitely come with growth, because if you had asked me this 5 years ago, I'd have been like, no, my
Same.
complete self-worth and value lies in winning a competition.
5 years ago, last year, like, I'm
Yeah,
still
that's fair.
learning
Give it
it.
2 years ago and I'd have been like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like I
Yeah.
say, even at the in Venice at the Elite Festival, I was not in a good mindset that day. Um, I don't know what was going on. Actually, I do know what was going on. I had a dog try and kill me at the train station, so that rattled me a wee bit.
Oh,
I was fine. It
lovely.
was muzzled. I just got a fright. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I was a bit like rattled going into the day and then just like stupid things were going wrong. Like my hair wasn't quite right, so I just brushed it and all my curls went completely flat and I was like, Why would that happen? Something broke and I had to fix it. It was just one of those days where lots of things were going a bit. I was like, I'm not on my A game today. And got a bit in my head about the competition where it was like you don't need to be in your head about this competition, you can just chill out. So it's a constant learning curve and it's less of a curve and more of a
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I think last year I was competing at Heart of Ireland, and for whatever reason I had one of those days where I hated my face.
Mm,
Just hated my face. Looked in the mirror, didn't like it, and did my makeup, and I was like, just don't know what it was.
mm.
And unfortunately, unlike yourself, I took that out on stage and my face just did fucking nothing for 3.5 minutes. And I hate it because that's not normally me.
Yeah.
But I was so in my own head about the fact that I hated my own face that day
Hmm.
that I just didn't do anything with it for three and a
Yeah.
half minutes. Um, so you say it is like this because other times I go out and it's fine and I can go with the fact that like something falls off or something doesn't go well, even if I'm not in a good mindset. But on that
Yeah.
particular day, for whatever reason, I took that out on stage, and that's
Yeah.
I've had to I had to reflect on that and go, right, how can I make sure I don't do that again?
Yeah, because sometimes it's really hard, right? And I've definitely done that before. There's been shows or competitions where I have gotten really in my own head. And then I've come off stage and been like, well, that wasn't what I know I'm capable of. And
Hmm.
then conversely, there's been other, I think it was the Allure Games last year. Um, I was having a really bad anxiety day. I was one of the worst mental states I've gone into a show with. But I just and I wish I could always do this because on that day, I just took myself to the side for like 5 minutes before I was due to go on stage. And I just had a wee word with myself where I was basically like, I wouldn't do this. She's a fucking rock star. She doesn't have anxiety. What? It's just like you've done Hollywood, you've had this, da, da, da. Like it does not matter. And also, it was just such a welcoming and fun and lovely show. It was like everyone's here to be nice. I just managed to just like go out there and kill it. And it was not a perfect performance. Some stuff went wrong, but it was one of the best performances that I've done face and attitude and energy wise. And that came out of me going into it feeling some of the worst that I have. And I wish I could do that every time, but it's a process.
I think it'll always be a process as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Like I wish I could bottle whatever little switch I flipped that day and just be like, every time I'm feeling a bit,
Just like channel it.
yeah, just
Um, there is probably even more that we could talk about, but we have been yapping for a while, so I'm gonna
this could
wrap
be
us
like a
up.
whole series.
Yeah, we could do a whole just on Aya. Um, where can our lovely watchers and listeners find you on the sociables?
So my Instagram is aya.lastorm, so aya.lstorm with no other apostrophes or anything. I'm also occasionally on Facebook, but not so much, so mostly Instagram, and my show is Clandestine Cabaret London. I am not on TikTok because it is not good for my brain. So I have a TikTok, but I don't use it. I deleted it off my phone.
That's fair. It's an endless scroll sometimes.
I had to get
And
rid
right
of it.
now, I'm off it just now because it's just US politics and it makes me want to cry. So
Yeah, fair.
I like it when it's just cat content. That's the best.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But thank you so much for this genuinely fun chat.
Thank you
I
for
had a
having me. It's been
lovely
so
time.
fun.
It's been so good. Thank you so much, and we might have you back again in the future. Yeah.
Watch the space.
Right, bye.
Bye.